Well, I have about decided I'm going to plant straight from my 162 Haas tray, seedling tray, into the ground, especially with my tomatoes. Those things are right at 12 inches tall, and they just really look good. So I think I'm going to go straight into my containers with these. But I do have a few that I want to give to my daughter and my neighbor. So I'm going to punch some of these out. Best way I found to do that, just with the eraser end of a pencil, and just kind of push them up through, pop them up through. And then they pull out real nicely. I went ahead sometimes and double seeded. So there's a 2 in a cell, and that one right there. This will also give the rest of these, while I'm pulling these out and potting these up from a neighbor, this will give thin out the canopy a little bit here. So some of these smaller ones, there are a few smaller ones, some of these smaller ones can get more sun, and so that'll help them too. But let me scoot this out of the way and just show you the root system on these tomatoes. Now this one actually has 3 in it, actually has 4 in it. I'm going to pull that one out. Probably going to go ahead and pinch that one off. Not necessary, but I'm just going to give him 2 plants. But look at the root system. The trays have grooves in down the hole. The sides are grooved, and the reason they do that is so it will guide the roots down. And as you can see, they pretty much follow the little grooves. The grooves are kind of in the middle. Just follow the grooves. But a really, really good, strong root system. That can go straight in the ground right now. But my neighbor's going to come. He's giving me a couple of plants, a couple of varieties that I don't have. We're just kind of swapping out. So he wanted a couple of these red snappers, and that's what these are. So I'm going to pot these up for him. Let me just show you real quickly how I do that. I've already got these labeled. I've got holes burned in the bottom of them. I just heated up a nail and then push the nail through there about 3 or 4 places. That gives it plenty of drainage. I want these to be planted deep, so I'm going to put the plant all the way down on the bottom of it. If it's a real small one, I might raise it up off the bottom a little bit. But I'll put that on the bottom. Now I'll come in here with some potting mix. This is BM7. That's what I use, what I have close to me that's reasonably priced, but nothing's reasonable anymore. And yes, this should be wet. I normally don't wet it because I'm just usually in a hurry, and it's just easier to work with when it's not wet. But it, it would be better for the plant if it was wet. Now I'm gonna water these in as soon as I've got them planted, but still, it'd just be a little better probably if it was wet. But if you're going to water them pretty doggone quick, I wouldn't worry about it. Get the plant standing up real good and straight. And then I'm just going to fill that cup up. Press down, shaking together, running over. And then I'll pile that dirt up and get it tall, because it's going to settle a little bit. Even when you do that to it, it'll pack down and settle some. So that's it. It says red snapper on there. And it's in white paint pen. If you want it to last, do it in paint pen, especially if you're doing markers for the garden, outside for the garden, out in the sun and in the weather. Use paint pen, black or white, depending on what color marker you have. But I found that it works good on these solo type cups. This is a 9-ounce, not very big, but it's what I bought. So let me do one more for you. Red snapper, got the red snapper wrote on it. Another great root system. All the roots are just uniform. They all just follow those grooves in that seedling tray. Really, really good root system. They just started coming out the bottom. Just barely could see. Of course, they're not going to come out because they're going to air prune. But it forces the other roots to start making. So put that on the bottom. Fill in one side. Then I'll push it over to where the plant's in the middle. It's, not terribly important that it's in the middle, but it's just something I like to try to do, especially if I'm going to give it to somebody else. And since he's a master gardener, I want to do the best job I can. All right, do that. Shake it down. Push it down. At this point, it's kind of hard to hurt those roots. Now, if you break a stem, if I break one of these stems, it's done. It's done. It's gone. So you can snap a root. In fact, I could separate those two. In fact, I may go ahead and do that and show you a separation. But you can separate those and tear the roots apart, and it really doesn't hurt them hardly at all, or if any. So just a dab more. And that is ready for some water. So now let me pull 2 or 3 out of here that's in one cell and show you the separation. They're easy to separate, and it's really not that stressful on the plants. Let me find one that's got 3. Pop it out of there. And again, that's a red snapper. And again, I'm thinning out the canopy, so the ones I leave in there, because I'm going to plant straight from here. So at least I think I am. But there's 3 plants. Actually, yeah, 3 plants. So let me start separating those 3. So the easiest way to do this is just tear them apart, gently but assertively, and not worry about, not worry about it too much, because it's really not going to hurt the plant that much. Because remember, there's 3 plants in that water roots. But what I'm going to do is dip it in this water, and that water will help rinse off some of the soil. And it just helps. I don't normally do this, but I just wanted to show you this is a technique if you want to use it. And that's to take some of the roots, some of the soil away by dipping it in water. This is the first time I've done this in a long time. I've been just ripping it apart. So, and it's about the same process. There's not much difference between ripping it here after it's drenched in water and ripping it before it was drenched in water. They're about the same. I picked a hard one because 3 is a lot of roots. But I'm just, again, gentle but assertively pulling them apart. This one's left with a decent root system. A little worried about the little one. The smallest one may not be. The smallest one doesn't have much root system, but I bet you it grows. And then that one. All right, got them separated. Got the holes burnt in the bottom of them. I'm just going to put that in there. Some soil. Again, I try to center it as best I can. Now, the fact that these don't have that big plug on the bottom, they're not going to stand up maybe as readily as the other ones would. So I think it's probably best to get it down as deep as you can on the bottom, and it'll start rooting from that stem. That's one thing about tomatoes, in case you probably know, but just in case you don't, is the tomato will root. However much of that tomato I put in the ground, it's going to root all the way up that stem. Of anything touching the soil is going to root. And so just a good practice to get them as deep as you can in the cup if you're transplanting. And if you're not going to transplant, I don't know why you'd watch this video. But anyway, there's one. This one, like I say, doesn't have much of a root system. It may or may not survive. I may mark it with a question mark just so I don't give that one to my neighbor, because he's going to plant pretty soon, and I want him to plant something that's got a decent root system. I think we're all going to plant this week. I think that's the plan. But this one, again, with that little dinky root system, it needs about a week before it goes in the ground. Let it make some more roots, which it will, and it will pretty quick. Flip those bottom leaves off. So that's the 3 that were separated, and I'll put a mark on it, like a question mark or a SEP on it or something to let me know that those were separated, and I'll try to remember to show you or just tell you how well they did as compared to the ones that we didn't separate. But typically, they're going to do fine. Only one I'm worried about, maybe that little one, because it just had just a few roots. But I give it a 99% chance of success. I think it'll go. One reason I like to do clear, you can see the root system. You can see those streaks in there, so you know when you're getting a good root system. When you're in a solo cup or when you're in a 6-pack or something like that, you really can't tell unless they start coming out the bottom. So I like using these clear containers, clear cups. This is kind of a solo cup, just a small one. I like using the clear ones because I can see the roots. There'll be a lot of little streaks through there. So let me mark these as separated and get them all in some water, and we'll see what happens. All right, we're gone.